Introduction. A state appears solid while its institutions function. Stability seems visible and unquestioned. Yet real durability depends not on surface order, but on inner structural coherence. When internal coordination weakens, formal procedures continue to operate, routines persist unchanged. Institutions follow protocol, creating the appearance of stability amid growing structural imbalance. When norms detach from authority, the structure still stands. It keeps its visible form, yet internal balance weakens, self-regulation slowly erodes. The more stable a system appears, the harder it is to notice internal shifts. Surface calm hides structural strain, visible order conceals silent erosion. Internal architecture emerges through law, balance powers, and oversight mechanisms, shaping the hidden logic of governance, defining stability, limiting discretion. If this logic shifts slowly and almost unnoticed, at what moment does the system stop being what it was before and become something else entirely? Law is often perceived as a collection of rules that restrict behavior and define boundaries. Yet within the state, it serves not merely as a limitation, but as the structural foundation upon which political authority is constructed and maintained. Historically, legal norms emerged to regulate relations between rulers and society, defining limits of authority, clarifying obligations, and creating a stable framework for predictability. Law simultaneously constrains power and grants it legitimacy, shaping the boundaries of authority while defining its acceptance. This dual character creates a structural tension between control and the authorized use of force. Once institutionalized, law evolves into a structured network of procedures, rules, and standards that systematically guide public decision-making and clearly define the operational framework of the modern state. Through legal architecture, competences are systematically distributed, institutional roles are clearly defined, and the interaction between branches of authority is carefully structured to preserve balance and ensure functional continuity. If law constitutes the foundation of the structure, any shift in its internal logic inevitably transforms the entire architecture of the state. Reshaping institutions, redistributing authority, and redefining the balance between power and legitimacy. Institutional design. Institutions are often seen as buildings or offices. This is a limited view. Institutional design is not about walls or facades. It concerns competences, procedures, authority, and structured decision-making processes. Across history, states created institutions to manage taxation, defense, and dispute resolution, gradually developing structured organizational models, formal procedures, stable hierarchies, defined competences, and predictable administrative routines. Every institutional arrangement faces tension between efficiency and oversight. Expanded authority increases administrative capacity, but it also raises the probability of power concentration, weakening structural balance. Designing institutions requires defining clear competences, setting structured decision-making procedures, establishing accountability mechanisms, ensuring predictable and stable operation across time. Through the interaction of institutions, a coherent state architecture emerges. Each institution performs a defined role. Changing one function reshapes internal dynamics. Adjustments ripple through the system, the overall balance shifts accordingly. If institutional design shapes the allocation of authority, its internal coherence and structural precision determine resilience, stability, and the long-term durability of the political system. Separation of powers. Separation of powers is often viewed as a technical division of functions among branches. Yet its deeper purpose lies not in task allocation, but in constructing an internal balance of authority. concept emerged as response to concentrated power when legislative, executive, and judicial functions merged, authority hardened, oversight weakened, arbitrary rule became frequent outcome. The system rests on a paradox. Stability emerges from constant tension. Each branch restrains the others, limits power, prevents dominance, preserves balance. Checks and balances create structured oversight, distribute authority across institutions, prevent concentration of unchecked power, enforce legal limits, sustain accountability, protect stability. Within this institutional architecture, structured conflict functions as a balancing force. It channels tension into procedure, it prevents concentration of authority, it strengthens systemic stability. When the balance shifts and one branch prevails, the entire configuration of authority transforms. The institutional equilibrium weakens. The internal structure of the state is quietly reshaped. Bureaucratic machinery. Bureaucracy is often portrayed as an excess of formalities and delays. Yet within the state it serves as a stabilizing mechanism that ensures continuity and consistency in governance. As societies grew more complex, permanent administrative structures became necessary to record decisions, allocate resources, coordinate functions, preserve continuity, maintain order beyond individual leadership. The bureaucratic apparatus seeks procedural stability. Political actors pursue rapid change. Their timelines rarely align. Friction grows inside institutions. Structural tension becomes persistent. Through standardized procedures, formal regulations, and strict hierarchical accountability, bureaucracy converts political directives into consistent, repeatable administrative processes. This administrative machinery connects diverse institutions into a coordinated operational network, aligning procedures, synchronizing decisions, sustaining stable, and continuous everyday state functioning across sectors. When bureaucratic neutrality erodes, or its mechanisms weaken, the impact spreads beyond efficiency. It disturbs coordination. It weakens trust. It destabilizes the state's internal architecture. Legitimacy. Legitimacy. Legitimacy is often reduced to formal recognition through elections or legal procedures. Yet its deeper meaning extends beyond formality and concerns the acceptance of authority as rightful. Throughout history, rulers sought recognition and stability. They turned to religion, tradition, and evolving legal codes. They built systems of meaning. They shaped narratives of duty and order. They justified authority before society. Legitimacy depends on consent. Consent is never fixed. It shifts with perception and trust. It demands repeated reaffirmation. It erodes quietly over time, even when institutions look stable and unchanged. At the institutional level, legitimacy appears in public trust in procedures, in predictability of decisions, in transparency of processes, and in perceived fairness in the allocation and exercise of power. When recognition extends to central institutions, legitimacy deepens, trust becomes structural, shared expectations stabilize behavior, conflicts remain contained, internal disagreements lose destructive force, external shocks are absorbed, coordination persists. When confidence in foundational authority declines, formal mechanisms persist. Yet their capacity to sustain stability gradually erodes. Procedures remain intact, trust weakens, coordination falters, legitimacy thins. Centralization. Centralization is often understood as a mere strengthening of central authority. Institutionally, however, it functions as a mechanism for coordinating decisions and consolidating governance functions. In many states, centralization emerged as a strategic response to external threats or deep internal fragmentation, seeking to impose unified administrative standards and tighter control. A stronger center speeds decisions, improves coordination, ensures unified standards, yet limits regional autonomy, narrows local discretion, and intensifies tension between unity and diversity. Institutionally, centralization manifests through the redistribution of competences, fiscal resources, and hierarchical procedures in favor of central bodies. Authority shifts upward, local discretion narrows. This configuration reshapes the entire state architecture, alters power distribution, recalibrates vertical authority, strengthens oversight, and redefines local self-governance mechanisms. When authority becomes overly concentrated, institutional interaction gradually shifts. Internal balances weaken, feedback loops narrow, resilience declines, adaptive capacity erodes. Control mechanisms. Control mechanisms are often seen as instruments of restriction or punishment. Within institutional architecture, however, they function primarily to preserve balance and accountability. As state structures expanded, formal oversight became necessary to restrain arbitrary authority, to secure accountability, to formalize review procedures, to ensure stability. Oversight strengthens transparency and responsibility. It builds public trust. It reduces abuse of power, yet it can slow decisions. It creates tension between speed and supervision. Institutionally, control operates through judicial review, auditing bodies, parliamentary committees, and formal evaluation procedures, ensuring oversight, accountability, and systemic balance. Together, these mechanisms create layered oversight. Institutions monitor one another. Power cannot easily concentrate. Accountability circulates across the system. Stability becomes structural. When oversight weakens or becomes symbolic, authority drifts quietly, institutions recalibrate power, procedures lose precision, internal state architecture subtly reshapes. Reproduction of power. The reproduction of power is often reduced to elections or smena lideraf, yet it reflects a deeper renewal of authority. Structures evolve, rules are reinforced, governance is recalibrated. Across political systems, succession has followed inheritance, appointment, or elections, each defining continuity, stability, authority transfer, and institutional endurance. The renewal of authority must preserve stability, yet permit change. It must guard continuity. While enabling adaptation, it generates tension between order and transformation and shapes durable governance. Institutionally, reproduction unfolds through electoral cycles, through term limits, through formal appointment rules, and through legal frameworks that regulate leadership renewal and continuity. Through periodic renewal, the system reaffirms its legitimacy. It recalibrates authority structures. It adapts to shifting expectations. It responds to social change. It adjusts to political pressure. When succession mechanisms lose predictability or lose credibility, institutional confidence begins to weaken. Governance coordination becomes fragile, and systemic stability gradually erodes. Structural crisis. At various moments in history, states faced quiet decline. Formal institutions remained standing. Procedures continued. Authority looked intact, yet order slowly weakened. Before the crisis, the system seemed stable. Procedures were consistently followed. Competences clearly defined, oversight mechanisms functioning, institutional routines appeared predictable. The turning point emerged slowly. Internal conflicts intensified. Institutions blocked one another. Decisions stalled repeatedly. Public confidence weakened. Established rules lost clarity. Governance became uncertain. Structural crises rarely arise from one event. They emerge from layered imbalances in authority. Weakened oversight, eroded legitimacy, and declining procedural trust. Such crises expose hidden structural weaknesses within the institutional architecture, revealing points of misalignment, fractured coordination, delayed response, and systemic imbalance. When structural disruptions persist, pressure intensifies, the system begins to strain, stability weakens, actors reconsider authority, power arrangements are questioned, institutional foundations face revision. Transformation. Throughout history, states have undergone reforms that reshaped their institutional architecture, altered balances of power, strengthened governance mechanisms, clarified authority. Before transformation began, the existing model appeared outwardly stable, institutions functioned normally, public routines continued, despite mounting and quietly intensifying internal tensions. The turning point emerged when established rules no longer corresponded to evolving social or political realities. Public expectations shifted, institutions hesitated, legitimacy weakened. Reforms often emerged during periods of institutional strain, seeking to restore balance among branches of power, redistribute competences more equitably, and renew procedural foundations of governance. Transformation reveals that state architecture is never static. Its durability depends on the capacity to adapt, absorb pressure, adjust institutions, and respond to emerging structural challenges. When foundational principles are revised, the system confronts uncertainty. It must redefine its internal balance. Continuity becomes fragile, power reorganizes itself into a newly configured structure. Conclusion. At first glance, the state seemed a collection of institutions and norms, structured yet static. But deeper analysis showed its endurance rests on the inner logic guiding their interaction and balance. Law establishes boundaries of action, institutional design allocates authority across structures, separation of powers creates durable balance, control mechanisms sustain coherence and long-term stability. Stability endures where authority renews itself through legitimacy, where rules adjust to change, where institutions respond without breaking, where trust sustains order. Even a formally solid framework becomes fragile over time when balance between norm, institution, and public trust weakens, when procedures lose clarity, when legitimacy slowly erodes. Transformation shows that state architecture can adapt over time. It evolves through pressure and reform. Integrity survives only when coordination inside remains stable. Ultimately, the internal architecture of the state is not expressed through visible symbols of power, but through sustained interaction between rules, institutions, and public recognition, shaping durable governance.
Hello everyone. I am very excited to share my new YouTube video with you, and I need your support to continue to bring quality and enriching content. If you enjoyed my content, please help me by like the video, it helps me reach more people and spread the message. Subscribe to the channel using the subscribe button below so you don't miss any new update or video. Press the bell to receive notifications every time I upload new content. And if you would like to support me directly and help me create more content, you are welcome to join me on Patreon. Your support is significant for me and allows me to continue investing in creating quality and enjoyable content for you. Thank you so much for joining and watching. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. See you in the next video.